Hello, this is Tony with the Podioslave podcast. Here tonight on the YouTube page. I was fortunate enough to interview Donnie Golden and Nomar Slevik, the masterminds behind our intro music. So a few weeks back, I reached out to those guys and asked them if they would come up with an intro for our podcast. Donnie had been listening to our podcast all along and said, hey, you should use an intro, and kind of had an idea for one. So I commissioned those guys to put one together, and the three of us loved it and have been using it now. Episode 14 and 15 had it, and we'll use it going forward. So pretty cool story as to how that came about, and we get into it a little bit tonight. And those guys are cool and definitely have their hands in a lot of things. So wanted to talk to them a little bit, find out how they made the beat and the guitar riff and all that fun stuff, and the idea behind all that. And also, just a quick caveat: Nomar calls Donnie Greg a lot because that's his real name. Don't go looking for him. But Donnie Golden equals Greg. So if you hear Greg here and there, that's why. We all used to work together back in the day, so we just, old habits die hard, you know. That being said, here are Donnie Golden and Nomar Slevik. All right, hello. I'm here with Nomar Slevik and Donnie Golden. How you guys doing tonight?
Good. What's up, man?
Good, man. I'm feeling good. So we wanted to have you guys on, talk about how the collaboration that was our podcast music intro. This is a behind the intro music. We're stealing it from VH1.
It's still ridiculous that this is something you want to cover, but I appreciate it.
Oh, hell yeah. No, it came together awesome. We all three of us loved it. So I was like, let me get those guys on and see if they'll talk about it for a few minutes, because the story's cool. So I don't know who wants to lead off, but you want to tell the story of how it came about.
In my opinion, I think Donnie should lead us off.
Sounds good.
He's good to articulate that kind of story.
Maybe. All right. So I had this idea. It was a vision. And it was that Podioslave had a theme song. And so I started thinking, well, first of all, I ran it by Tone. And he was like, yeah, whatever. I was like, okay.
That wasn't what I want. I didn't do that. Come on.
No. He was like, yeah. Good idea. Yeah. I was like, okay. So I started thinking, I had this little guitar here. It came out of a Happy Meal.
You're going to have to send me a picture of that later.
I've had it since 2007. And it works. It still works. And so I've been thinking about I've been wanting to record it and see what I could do with the sounds anyway. So I thought, wait a minute. He needs a theme song. I have this little guitar. And I've always loved the Ben Stiller Show theme song. So I thought, okay, what if we could use that as inspiration and somehow get some sounds out of this guitar? And by the way, Dweezil Zappa wrote that.
Oh, shit.
So I didn't know that. Yeah. That's
was,
we call that nerdery in our podcast.
Okay. So I kind of fit in with that.
Definitely.
So, the Ben Stiller Show, if you can find it, is hilarious. But the theme is very well written. It's very good. It's catchy. So I was like, okay, if we could base something on that and just make it ridiculous or passable, whatever.
A little bit of both.
So a week went by and I was like, I really ought to record this thing before that little tiny Chinese battery in it dies because it's 12 years old. So I did record some stuff and I sent it over to Slevik, who's a master producer. And I was like, can you work with this? Can we work with this and make this passable? And then the magic happened on his end.
Yeah, Greg sent me all the samples, and they were kind of all broken up into individual notes, which was nice because that gave me a lot of wiggle room to play around instead of just one long sample. And I'm a big drums fanatic, and so I actually when I sit down to produce, I actually start going through all my drum sounds first. I really don't know how a lot of other producers do it. I don't know if they get a bass line down or guitar or whatever they're doing, but I always get the drums that I love, and then I build sounds around the drums. And there's some sounds that definitely don't work with certain drums, and sometimes I'll find myself falling in love with a particular loop or sample or something, and not be able to use it on a particular track based on the types of drums that I used. So this was a little bit different for me, where I had the sample first. I'm like, all right, I need to try to get some sort of drum sound that works with that. And I'm a big hip hop guy, so I immediately went to all of those little drum sounds that I had, and I just wanted something boom bappy, if you will, kind of like old school hip hop drum sound speaking, and just plugged Greg's guitar notes on top of that, and then added a little reverb, a little echo, stuff like that. And once I got something solid enough together, I sent the track over to Greg to see what he thought about it.
What did you think about it, Greg?
I liked it. Yeah, he did a good job with the drums.
Yeah,
and
I would agree.
And yeah, so it was difficult working with this toy because I do have a guitar, but I need a new preamp, so I couldn't actually line in a guitar. And besides, I wanted to play with this thing anyway. So it was tough to record because one channel was like through the roof. The other channel was very quiet. So
I was going to ask how you did that. Did you mic it, or what'd you do?
I I had to record it with my phone.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
And it actually worked with the phone. So then when I could see the waveform, I saw one channel was like through the roof. The other channel was passable. It was way low though. So I had to kind of get rid of the washed out channel and work with the lower channel, but that worked. And then I had to do like a faux stereo on it. And what else did I do? I had to EQ it a lot because it's a tiny speaker. So I had to cut out the high and the low because I didn't realize the air conditioner was running. So there's like a rumble of air conditioner.
You can hear that. Yeah, you can hear it in the long sample that you sent.
Oh, really?
It wasn't as clean as the individual notes that you sent over.
Yeah, it was just a bunch of. See, it has a button. I don't know if you can see that. There's a button there.
Mm-hmm.
It's an oval,
mm-hmm.
And when you push it down, however long you hold it, it will just keep playing these like chords. Like if you hold it down, it just goes down, like it's almost random.
Yep.
And that's the longer section you heard. And the shorter one, if you just hold it for a second, it'll go down, down, down.
Nice.
So that's more workable, but I did do different lengths of time to experiment with, what is it going to sound like, and it may make some kind of cool riff on its own. So where was I going with that?
Well, no, I think it definitely did. I mean, it made a cool riff. You had the, I could tell where you hit the button. Now that I've seen the actual McDonald's toy, I could tell where you just hit it and then it did that too. So that's wild. So just, I guess my first question would be like, that's something you just had sitting there that you wanted to just use somehow, some way, and this is the first opportunity that came to you?
I've been meaning to mic this thing for 12 years.
That's crazy.
I've always been curious what kind of experiments I could do with it. So yeah, so I recorded it, cleaned it up, sent it to him. He actually built the riff and the drums, sent it back over to me, and then I added that intro part where it was
Yep.
Because that I just wanted it to sound more like the Ben Stiller theme, and that adds. Again, you got to listen to it because it's funny.
Definitely.
But yeah, and I added some more stereo to it because it was kind of, I don't know, it's just a crappy little speaker, like I said. So I added some depth to it, some I don't know, reverb, stuff like that. But he did too. So I think we both like reverb the crap out of it.
Yeah. So, can you push one of the buttons now?
Oh yeah. I don't know where the mic is here, but let's see if this works. Oh, it's off. Hold on. It's off to save the battery.
That's smart.
Because we don't want that to go at this point.
Nope.
Okay.
Yep.
Could you hear that?
Yep.
Nice.
Hold it down. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, definitely.
So it's just kind of this berserk like sequence you would never be able to play. Well, someone could, but a normal person wouldn't.
It sounds like, Donnie, you put together, you used that guitar and you sent it over to Nomar, and Nomar, you didn't have beats in mind yet. You were just like, I'm going to hear what he comes back with, and then I'm going to throw some drums behind it, as opposed to being, I know what I want to use.
Yeah, because I didn't want to get myself stuck in a scenario where whatever he sends me isn't working with the drums. So, in this scenario, it made sense to wait till I got the sample. Plus, he had sent me a link to the Ben Stiller theme show,
Nice. Yep.
the Ben Stiller show theme, and I was like, yeah, I can get behind this because I was focusing on like the guitar riff of it
Yep.
because it had like rock drums with it, and I don't specialize in rock drums, but I was like, if I even had that, sample of the Ben Stiller show, I could probably do something with it. So I was pretty excited to get this friggin' McDonald's toy
Yeah. Right.
sample, and I knew we could have some fun with it.
That's awesome. So another quick question I had for you guys. Is that something that's commonplace for you, for either of you, to use something like that, a McDonald's toy, or just, you're out of the ordinary household item to make music? I'll start with
Yeah.
you, Nomar.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, absolutely. Greg and I even actually have a history of this.
Yeah.
Who knows how long ago it was? Boy, 12, 15 years. Like, who the hell knows? But I remember he had this plastic jug. I don't know if it was like an old like an old jug for like pickles or something from like Home Depot or some shit like that. But he had emptied it and brought it to work. Actually, all of us used to work together.
We did, yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, you could use this for a drum." It was like a kind of like a plastic jar, but it was it was big, probably like 48 ounces or something. And it looked to me that maybe pickles or something came in it.
Oh,
Like a
I think
big
I
thing
think it
of
was a gallon
pickles.
of mayonnaise.
Oh, okay, yeah. And I don't remember if he gave that to me when we were going to school together or if it was when we worked together. But you're like, listen to this. It's got like, a bongo, good bass kick type of sound to it. So I remember bringing it home and, just miking it up and, recording a kick sound with it. But yeah, to actually answer your question, definitely if I have something out of the ordinary that I want to use, I will definitely think of unique ways to try to get it recorded, which is typically just miking it. If it's like a little device like Greg has, or something like that. I've definitely done that throughout the years, just sampling the weirdest shit. And I love going out into quote unquote nature to record certain sounds. But the coolest thing I ever recorded, this was probably again 15 years ago or something. I went and got an oil change at like a Jiffy Lube or some shit, and the sound that the machine makes when it's pumping the new oil into your car, it's like a type of thing. And I was like, oh man, I got to record that sometime. And this was the time where you couldn't record shit on your phone. So fast forward about another 10 years from that, and I'm getting an oil change at a Jiffy Lube in Kennebunkport, of all places. And I was ready with my phone to record that piece of it, and ended up using it on a song that was on one of my albums at some point.
That's awesome. That's great. How about you, Donnie?
I collect keyboards from the dump.
Nice.
So I've got a giant bin, and they're not professional. They're like little kid keyboards.
Mhm.
And so I'm working with those right now and trying to see what kind of beats. They're ridiculous sounds. It's going to be insane once this comes together.
So this just lets me know that if I need more musical accompaniment, or we need more musical accompaniment to the Podioslave podcast, that I'm going to call you guys because you've got stuff ready to go.
I always have beats for days. Is it always a complete piece at this point? No, but we have all the ingredients to have beats for days, if you will.
So were there a couple of different kind of arrangements, or was the what the final product kind of what you came up with and put it together?
Yeah, there was definitely a few different iterations of it. And the first one, in my opinion, was too simple. I was focusing on just two notes. And in the file naming process, it was just like the first two that I was kind of fucking around with. They were kind of like the cleanest and had the most contrasting melodic pieces to it. So I was kind of just messing around with those two at first, but it just sounded too simple. But I thought it might work because it's just for like, a 30-second or a minute long intro, and it wouldn't sustain, a whole soundscape. So I was kind of fucking around with that for a little while, but it was just too simple. So I ended up just using everything that Greg sent, and then fucking with the different echo and reverb and shit like that. And then I really wanted a bass line too, but I just couldn't play something on the keyboard that was matching that well enough. I obviously didn't know the notes. I'm also an idiot, so it's hard to do things like that to match up melodies for me. So I just ended up really EQing the fuck out of some kick drums, and those are playing in the background, and they add that bass like quality.
Nice. So I guess the one thing that I was wondering, I know Donnie, you've listened to a decent amount of what we've done so far. Did that factor into what you decided to start, the recording process with, or did you just like, no, I'm gonna use this guitar and this is it, deal with it?
Yeah, well, I wasn't sure what you guys were into, but once I had an idea of that, then that Stiller song just popped up in my head. I was like, yeah, something like that works, because you guys aren't into, hip hop or,
We are, but
I
it
mean,
hasn't come to the fruition, the forefront so much yet. I guess I'm more the hip hop head of the three of us, but
then we're gonna have to remix the theme.
yes, absolutely. I mean, we could do that again. We could use it again down the road. But yeah, that was I was wondering, because we listened to it, and when you sent it over, I listened to it and I said, this kind of incorporates everything. You get kind of a guitar riff, but then you get that boom bappy drum that Nomar was trying to find, and it just was kind of everything that we're into at the same time. It hit, you guys hit it out of the park, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and I think I've said that a few times, but it really was what we were looking for, and all three of us were like, yeah, this is perfect, this is gonna work. So thanks obviously to you guys for doing that.
Well, we appreciate you even asking us, but for all three of you to be in agreement was icing on the cake. I was expecting maybe you to like it because you're biased.
Yeah, true.
But the other guys, I have no idea what they're into, and anytime something touches me musically, like if I'm collaborating with somebody who's not a hip hop artist, there's always a hip hop tinge to whatever I'm contributing, and I wasn't sure if that was going to work for the podcast and what the
Oh,
content
definitely.
has been thus far. So I'm glad it works.
It definitely worked.
Yeah, what I meant by the hip hop thing is like a special ed instrumental wouldn't have worked.
No.
Right.
No.
Special ed is dope AF though.
Yeah, I would have liked it, but it just didn't fit the subject matter.
That's I think all I had for questions for you guys, but I do want to give you both a chance to plug anything. If you've got anything that you want to throw out there, I will start with you, Donnie.
Nomar and I are possibly working on a record.
Nice.
And it's gonna drop in the future.
Nice. I like that. I can't wait.
Yeah, that's been a long time coming. We've collaborated over the years on, various things, and I would say the majority of it hasn't come to fruition on a full release. So we're excited to get some things started.
Yeah.
And it's much easier, these days with Dropbox and all that good stuff. So
Yeah. Nomar, anything you want to plug coming up soon?
I just finished writing a new book. It's called Granite Skies, A Disconcerted Journey Through the Unknown. And it's basically the biography of a gentleman from New Hampshire who has been having a lifetime of extraterrestrial encounters. And the book really turned into something neither of us were expecting. I met with him on a few different occasions for some long form interviews. And I know this is audio only, but Greg is dancing and it's funny. But anyway.
For those at home, Donnie is Greg is Donnie. Don't worry about it.
Oh yeah, shit. But anyway, so this book turned into something we both didn't know where it was going. So I met with this guy I wrote the book about. His name's Mike Stevens, and we had 2 long form interviews. And when I say long form, they were like 4-hour interviews. Oh, wow. And he just told me everything that's happened to him, like every little instance that he could remember, he shared with me, and it's terrifying. Mm-hmm. And he has absolutely no evidence to back any of it up. But that's not really the point of it, because what this book turned into was surviving trauma. And there's actually been 2 different Harvard medical studies that about people who experience, quote, alien abduction scenarios, where those people are experiencing true and diagnosed PTSD scenarios. And that is what he's been experiencing, to the point of almost killing himself last year. Oh, wow. And all of that gets written about in the book. And because he shared so much with me and was so raw, I decided to share my own stuff about my own mental health. Mm-hmm. And so this book turned into, it's got this background of extraterrestrials, but it's also about trauma and hope and surviving something so terrible,
Yep.
And
when is that coming out?
That's coming out August 25th.
Oh, wow, that quick.
And yeah. And if anybody out there wants to order a copy, you can go to allmylinks.com/Slevik, Slevik, and you'll find the link for it in there.
And I will post that on the video too. So that'll be in there. You can just click on it in the description of this video. It'll be there. So check that out. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you guys coming on tonight. I do want to say this isn't the first time we've collaborated, because Donnie and I collaborated on a Halloween costume in probably, 2006, and it was at your place, Nomar. So, we were both. I think I was Oates, and he may have been Daryl Hall. So
I was. Yeah. Yes.
That's some nerdery. That's some nerdery right there for you guys. So this is not the first collaboration, and hopefully not the last, because we really appreciate you guys doing that, and it's been a lot of fun talking to you guys again about stuff like this and making this happen. So and getting something out of it that's worked for us and sounded awesome for our podcast. So much appreciated, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, no, we thank you, man. Very much appreciated.
That was my conversation with Donnie Golden and Nomar Slevik. I got the guys here, Nate and Anthony, to kind of break that down. What'd you guys think?
That's pretty cool, man. You definitely get a glimpse into a different type of nerdery. You know what I mean? Like on the creative side. Mm-hmm. And it's like you can relate, but you can't, but you can at the end of the day. And just the creativity. I mean, I'm going to say this, and they would appreciate this. Normal people don't think that way.
I think you're right. They would appreciate that. They're not normal.
But non-creative people, they're not going to think of the Jiffy Lube sound. They're not going to think of the American Idol McDonald's guitar.
and to hang on to that thing for so long.
And now, like every time I'm going to go to Jiffy Lube or anywhere else, I'll just have a different perspective completely. Like, oh, okay, this might be work as a soundbite in some kind of segment. So yeah, it's cool, man.
Well, and as soon as he started making that noise, I'm like, I've heard that before. I bet obviously we've all gotten our oil changed, and it's like, yeah, I've heard that sound, and it sounds exactly like that. And I can totally see him sitting there waiting for his car to be done, thinking, I need to record that. I'm going to turn that into a beat.
And it has like, if you're like a Jiffy Lube technician and you're pumping that thing, it has a normal cadence. So if you're thinking of like a bar, it's got a beat to it, you can totally work with that. But it is cool to see the creative side, the creative side, behind a lot of this stuff. And that was a good idea, Tone, to do that.
Yeah, I think it's cool that they didn't just go and simplify it and do like a digital sample or something. You know what I mean? So that kind of like you're saying, it kind of goes to show that they're kind of thinking outside of the box all the time. And he said that he had kind of thought of the Ben Stiller show, right? Mm-hmm. That's cool that it kind of just reminded him. So it kind of jogged his memory a little bit, which is cool.
Well, and he had a nerdery moment in there, which you guys, I'm sure you heard. Dweezil Zappa wrote the Ben Stiller theme show, the song theme, whatever. I had no idea, but he knew that because he's a fan, and yeah.
But I do remember that show, and I didn't remember the music per se. So if you look it up on YouTube, it's on YouTube, and you can definitely hear the influence. But what a deep cut to pull from. You know what I mean? Who thinks of that?
Yep.
It's awesome.
Greg does. Donnie/Greg.
Finkel is Einhorn.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
Different kind of
like I said in the beginning, old habits die hard. He was Greg for us forever. So.
But I would love to collaborate with them in the future on something related to the podcast. I'm sure we could weave something in, or even a longer conversation just about kind of their experience with music and on the creative side.
For sure.
Totally. Maybe UFOs. Bring Tom DeLonge in too.
I know. Yeah, that would be kind of bringing those two together would be pretty cool because I know Nomar does a lot of that stuff. He's written. This is his third book. 2 of them are UFOs over Maine. This is his third book. He's got a podcast about that kind of stuff that I've listened to a couple. He does a really good job with, and he's put a documentary out. He's done a bunch of different stuff in that world. So maybe you could be a little skeptical, but you might learn a little, a thing or two. I am kind of intrigued by the book after he explained it. I didn't know that was what it was about. Yeah. So I'll probably check that out here in the fairly near future. I think he said August 25th that comes out. So there'll be a link in the comment section here.
Sweet.
Yeah, I mean, when you have someone that's that knowledgeable on any subject, I mean, you see it on Joe Rogan. You can, you learn a lot, and that's actually why a lot of people listen to someone like Rogan. He's so well-rounded, and the nature of the guests are all from all different areas: music, business, yoga instructors, you name it. And you always learn something. So I would be interested in that.
Definitely. And I mean, he's got a background in hip hop. He's put out, I don't even know. I have probably 4 or 5 of his albums, but he's put out more than that. And he's produced a bunch for other people. So there's some stuff there to dig into musically too, which would be cool.
That's awesome. He literally knows the whole process from start to finish. That's really cool.
Yep.
I was going to say, if you're from the Northeast, or you're from Maine, you know his name.
Yep. I wanted. Did I ever bring either of you two to one of his shows?
No.
I feel like it might have happened.
No, maybe.
Yeah, he played. I went to Gino's once in Portland. Another tiny venue called Plush, and the place that is now Port City. It wasn't Port City back then, which is a state theater venue. It was smaller, but he played there too. So he played in a bunch of different places around town when I was in, first becoming old enough to go out and go to local music shows in our town. And I could have sworn I brought one of you guys, but I'm sure I brought other people that were around too. I know Twan, you were in school, so you weren't around, and Nate, you were in New York, I think, so maybe not.
Yeah, I was gonna say I moved so much that
yeah,
back in Maine here and there, but yeah. What I'm trying to think, what was Port City before Port City?
The stadium.
Oh, yep.
Super nerdy Portland, Maine.
Deep cut venue.
Yeah. It is now Binga's Wingers, and it's across from our Civic Center. So yeah, if you've ever been to Portland, Maine, you know what we're talking about. But yeah, it was the stadium. It was a sports bar, huge sports bar.
Yep.
So yeah, that was the combo with those guys. That was kind of how the intro music came to be. So this is our first installment on the YouTube behind the intro music or behind the music. So there'll be other ones, I'm sure, down the road. Thanks for checking us out, guys. Peace.
Thanks all. Bye.
Cheers.